Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is John Campea, and this is Mailbag. What is Mailbag? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. See, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take the second half of the show to take live comments and questions from our audience watching live. However, if you're one of those folks who watches the show any of the other 22 hours during the day and you want to get in a comment or question to be read by me or Rob or both of us, good news, we have this show here called Mailbag, where you guys send in questions and we address them. Now, the way you send in a question for us to address on Mailbag is simply go down into the description of this video. You'll see a tip link there. Click on that or enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll begin your comment or question read on Mailbag if we deem your comment or question appropriate to be used on our show. And of course, you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. And all of us involved with the channel, thank you guys so much for your support. And I am joined by the aforementioned Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett today. Robert, how's your day going so far?
John, I think we did a great show today. Looking forward to hearing from everybody, seeing what people had to say over the weekend.
Very creative, interesting, lively show today we had on the John Campea Show earlier.
Wow, I got to say, it's what makes the show so much fun to do.
Well, obviously, we had the Will Smith situation come up this morning.
We did.
I've got a feeling we're going to hear from some people in Mailbag today wanting to talk more about the Will Smith situation.
I wouldn't be surprised, John.
Not at all. So, guys, without any further ado, let's get right into it, shall we? We're going to get things started off here with an anonymous viewer who writes in, John, you keep saying how Hawkeye sucked. And it did suck. Fine.
Come on now.
No issue. But that's the case for you. Well, okay, let me stop you right there, Anonymous. Obviously, all film and television are subjective. Whenever I say that a show is great, what I'm saying is I think it's great. That goes without saying. Whenever I say a movie is terrible, that's me saying that I felt that the movie was terrible. That's the nature of the subjectivity of film, of course. So yes, when I said I thought, and by the way, I never said Hawkeye sucked. I said I didn't like it. There's a difference between not liking it and sucking. You know, there were episodes of Hawkeye I thought were pretty good. And actually, you know what? For me, it all came down to the last episode. Like, I was very middle of the road on Hawkeye. There's some good, some bad. And it came down to the last episode. I think if the last episode was good, I probably would have enjoyed the series overall, but it wasn't very good. And so I kind of came out on the side of, nah, that show's not very good. But yes, you don't have to be a rocket science to understand that. Of course, whenever I say I like something, or if I say something is good, that is me saying I believe it is good. It's just a redundant thing to say. At any rate, why would Disney change plans because of Hawkeye when it got both good critic and audience scores? Like it or not, let's not pretend it was heavily panned. It wasn't. Well, first of all, no one's ever said they should change their plans because of Hawkeye. I actually always preach the complete opposite. If you're good at what you do, if you're a good studio, you don't let a road bump make you change your entire plans, right? Hawkeye was a bad show, but even though I feel it was a bad show, you don't change your plans for your overall cinematic universe because of one bad show, especially when you've got like 28 wins and maybe 3 defeats. You're doing something pretty damn good. As far as it not being heavily panned, it wasn't heavily panned, but here's the thing, Rob. You and I literally interact with hundreds of thousands of film fans a day. And I think it is fair to say there's a good number of those people who interact with our show on a monthly basis that we're not big fans of Hawkeye. But that doesn't change the fact that whether everybody loved Hawkeye or everybody hated it, if everybody loved it, they shouldn't change their cinematic plans. If everybody hated it, they shouldn't change their cinematic plans. So it doesn't really change anything one way or the other.
No, I mean, look, I didn't love Hawkeye. If I were to be asked what I thought of it, I thought it was slight. I thought that the stakes weren't that large. I really liked Haley Steinfeld and her relationship with Clint. I thought that was good, but I thought that overall not much happened.
No,
you know, and it was kind of like, okay, it was almost like a day in the life of, and I understand why Clint wanted to protect Haley Steinfeld, but ultimately, like, if he left town and went to be with his family for Christmas, I don't think much would have been different.
Yeah, it was a show.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed it.
I had episodes I enjoyed watching.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching, but overall, it did not leave me with much of an impression. Like, I wouldn't say it sucked. I would just say it was kind of ordinary. Like, it felt like the middle of a series that was really good in the beginning and really good in the end, but the middle of it was just, like a network show.
It didn't get good for me, and it didn't start having good episodes till like episode 3 for me.
Yeah, see, I didn't even think it had like good episodes. I just kind of thought it was kind of the same. You know? All
right. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, Anonymous. All right, let's move on here. Next up, we got Big Will, who writes, Hey, John. So Sony released a video clip montage of Andrew Garfield called The Amazing Peter 3. The theme music is amazing. I would love to see The Amazing Spider-Man 3, and I doubt if they will make it. But what a tease if they did. What are your thoughts? Thanks to Bring on the Filthy. I have seen no such clip. Did Sony actually, or did some fan make that?
I don't know. I have not seen it either, and I look for stuff like this.
And you have never seen anything like that?
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet, but that doesn't mean I haven't run across it. But I look for things like that. Haven't seen it. You know me, John. I'm still pulling for him to be in Venom 3.
Well, listen, I have always been a wild advocate for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I think he is my favorite of the Spider-Men. And coming out of No Way Home, I feel justified in feeling that way. He is my favorite Spider-Man. I've always wanted them to do an Amazing Spider-Man 3. They are not going to do an Amazing Spider-Man 3.
No.
I hope I'm wrong about that. I will be celebrating on this show, Rob. If they announce that, I'll be damn happy. But I really don't think it's not going to happen. So I don't think we have to worry about it too much. Unfortunately, Big Will, but here's hoping. Here's hoping. All right, next up. Rammer Bulldog writes, Part 1. Hey, John and Rob, I was really looking forward to Morbius because I thought the trailers looked really good. Me too.
Yeah.
After the first reactions, I'm so disappointed, and I understand that Sony has made some really good stuff, but they have also made some bad stuff. Well, that's true of every studio. And even though I had fun with the Venom films, they're not great films by any stretch. Oh, I think they're great films. I think they're awesomely entertaining films. Anyway, and they do have issues, but my question is, why did you think Sony marketed Morbius with Spider-Man Easter eggs in it just to take it out? My guess is, hey, John and Rob, looks like we're missing something. Okay, well, anyway. Well, remember, here's the thing. It is important to keep this in mind. You haven't seen Morbius yet, neither have I. I cannot answer the question, why do I think they put these things in the trailer and then took them out? I don't know that they took them out.
Right, I don't either.
We have heard reports and some stories that were things, but I've not seen any confirmation that that's true. So I cannot comment on why do I think they took them out when I don't know that they took them out. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if they took them out either. And if they did, it kind of seems strange to me. Like, you know, I sent you those clips of the interview that was on, what is it, Cinema Blend or something that they had on Twitter with the director.
Right.
And he seemed to think he was making ties with Spider-Man and saying things like, which Spider universe are these characters in? And
it certainly didn't sound like everything was taken out.
No, he sounded pretty definitive about it. So I don't know. I think, you know what? I don't believe anything until we've seen it. The proof's in the pudding, John.
And as far as the idea about like being disappointed, I can't be disappointed because I haven't seen it yet.
Right.
My excitement and my expectation level has dropped for hearing what I'm hearing. But I mean, I can't say I'm disappointed in it. I can't say it's not fantastic. I can't say any of that because I haven't seen the movie yet. So hopefully after I see the movie, I'll
I'm going to reserve judgment till we see it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next up. Remmer Bulldog again writes, Hey, John and Rob. So I also want to say that I'm not saying that Sony should change everything because Morbius has so far been disappointing according to the first reaction. Again, we haven't seen it. It's just because we heard from some other people who may have not liked it. Doesn't mean anything at this point yet. But they need to reevaluate their plan because even though they've made Spider-Man 2, Part 2, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, everything else has been a mixed bag. Unlike Marvel, when they put out something that's not great or really good like Hawkeye, they've built up so much equity that they just say they just had an off day. Well, here's the thing, Remmer. Again, you're saying, well, they need to change their plans. Based on what? I haven't seen the movie.
And also, I mean, the last movie made $800 million domestic.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing okay. And listen, every studio has a mixed bag. Disney has had, and not even Disney, but Marvel specifically, has had a very unnatural and unusual good run.
Right.
Although I would, propose that good run has been running out of steam because I found some of their projects lately have been lacking that hallmark Marvel quality lately.
And well, they're also missing their star power. You know, they're giving us new characters that even those characters, as much as I love Shang-Chi the movie and I loved Shang-Chi the comic, Shang-Chi was never a top-tier Marvel character, nor will Shang-Chi ever be. To me, I see it as the new version of Ant-Man, if that makes any sense. The way Ant-Man was kind of a lesser-tier character, core Avengers character. I love those movies. I love Paul Rudd. But, you know, it's not Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I mean, but it's even beyond that for me, because we're talking about, like, I'm just used to seeing things like Shang-Chi that I love. I'm used to now walking into a Marvel project and loving. And so when I watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier and I just think it's okay, that's fine, but it's not what I'm used to. When I watch Loki and just think it's okay, when I watch Hawkeye and I think it's not good, I'm not used to that. But yeah, Shang-Chi was fantastic. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was done in partnership with Sony, was fantastic. I'm looking forward to Doctor Strange, but I'd like to see them pick up the momentum. But no, Sony doesn't. If Morbius ends up being bad, and I'd be really disappointed if it is.
Me too.
But if it does end up being bad, all right, it'll be one bad film in their past. I mean, considering that, you know, Far From Home, Homecoming, No Way Home are also technically Sony films.
Yeah.
You put on top of that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and then you put in the 2 Venom movies, which are both successful. They're on a pretty good roll. And maybe Morbius is the end of that roll. But if it is, like I was saying before, you don't change your plans based on one bump in the road. You keep soldiering forward. And look, you look at Sony's overall Spider-Man record. Okay, they have 2 films that I don't think are good. They had Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, and then they had The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Other than that, you got Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, the first Amazing Spider-Man. You got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, they have more wins than losses in their ledger right now. Yep. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Thanks for that, remember. Next up. So another one from our part 3. Even though I didn't hate Hawkeye, I thought it was just underwhelming, but that's just my opinion. Hopefully Morbius surprises me like Venom, even though it's not a great movie. It's still really fun. A really fun movie. Thanks, and bring on the filthy. And that's all we can hope, Bremer, for every movie we go into. Fingers crossed that it's a movie we really enjoy and have fun with. I mean, and that's what I want for everybody when they go to their movies too. Thanks for writing that in, Bremer. All right, next up. Paul C. writes, "Hey, John. Rob answered me on the possible villains in the sequel to The Batman, taking into account the realism of the film. And he told me that the general audience want this realism. But is it true?" Oh, it absolutely is true. "It's hard to believe that I agree that Nolan, I agree that Nolan planted a realistic version of Batman in people's minds, but that could change if we were offered an awesome, more fantastical version. The MCU has proven to us phase after phase that audiences want entertaining movies above all else. So to be honest, I think Reeves and Warner Brothers gave us a new realistic version to look mature without taking any risks for so-called maturity." Oh, I think that's 1,000% wrong, Paul. Anyway, "A verisimilitude that does not require a lot of imagination." Ooh, I think you are 1,000,000,000% wrong about that. Verisimilitude takes more creativity. There was a great artist who once said that the greater the limitations, the greater the creativity needed. Or the greater the limitations, the greater imagination is needed. But I'll get to that in a second. "A verisimilitude that does not require a lot of imagination from the scriptwriters and the audience. So I'm bound to keep wondering what interesting foes Reeves might come up with for sequels and spinoffs. The Mafia, Psychopaths, and Terrorists. It's Nolan 2.0. So possible." First of all, Paul, let me address this. The idea that without the fantastical, that it doesn't take any imagination. I'm sorry. A 5-year-old can go, okay, Superman will shoot lasers out of his eye, and then the spaceship gets. I mean, that where's the creativity in that? It's just the subject matter. That's it. It's a variation of a subject matter. I believe in that saying that when you have the greater limitations, the greater creativity is needed. When you're trying to make a superhero movie, and you're trying to make a comic book movie that has the elements of wonder and awe, but you are bound by what is tangibly feasible, not 100% realistic,
right,
but tangibly feasible. The amount of creativity you have to come up with to make that movie is outstanding, far more than saying, Justice League, what are they, anything they want, whatever the CGI guys can come up with, you can do. That is not a celebration of creativity. I mean, so I disagree. And here's the thing. When you talk about creativity and originality, every fucking comic book movie these days, Rob, they're all with magical powers and laser beams out of their eyes. And I love these movies. Don't get me wrong.
I do too.
I eat them up. I totally eat them up, but they're all the same. This guy's bulletproof. This guy's super strength. That girl can fly. They all shoot lasers out of their eyes. No. You say, okay, now you got to try to capture that idea of a comic book, of a superhero. But he's a man in a world filled with just men. Go.
Yes.
That, to me, is the biggest creative mountain you can possibly try to climb. And when you're doing that sort of thing, yeah, you got to be really creative in what could be tangibly realistic or plausible villains for that Batman to face. Because I'll tell you what, any comic book movie say, okay, I don't know, this one's going to be a dwarf from the underworld of planet T9X who has the power of magnificent foot and he kicks planets out of their orbit. Whatever, anybody can come up with that. Try to come up with a Riddler character that is just a regular man who is terrifying, and that is creative to me. I don't know, Rob, what's your take on that?
No, I feel the same way. I mean, look, let's say everyone talks about Clayface or something. How can you bring a villain like Clayface into the Batman world that exists now as Matt Reeves envisioned it? Okay, that's fine. So you have to ask yourself, what does Clayface, what is he suffering from? Like, how is he going to look like a Clayface? You know, and if you want him Clayface, you don't want him just to have a nickname Clayface. You want to see Clayface. You want to have him melt or do whatever the hell he's going to do. Now, in Matt Reeves' Batworld, how do you explain that? Where in the real world can you look at anyone who is analogous to Clayface in our world now? In the Batman world Matt Reeves has created, everybody has, it's like the real world. So if you were to suddenly give us an antagonist that had weird body melting properties, well, there's nobody on our Earth right now that has those things. So when you try and explain that this exists, it's going to be some weird pseudoscience. And are you going to believe that Robert Pattinson's Batman lives in the same world as a character that has skin melting properties that doesn't exist anywhere where we currently reside? How do you make those two things work together? I mean, the thing about the Riddler that was so terrifying is we've seen Columbine. We're 20 plus years out from people using the internet and coordinating. We've seen terrorist attacks, and we've seen people attack churches and supermarkets, and even somebody attacked a Dark Knight screening in Colorado. So it's not too far of a stretch to that some, you know, megalomaniac, some crazy person is going to put together a team of 500 supporters to go out and support his efforts to take down the city. We've seen it. Maybe not on that scale. And that's where you have to make a believable villain that works in that world.
And the cool thing about Batman is that the best of his rogues gallery does fit in there.
Yes.
You know, whether you're talking Penguin and Riddler and Joker and Catwoman, and you can even
like the Court of Owls.
Yep, the whole Court of, which has become like the big thing that everybody loves to grab.
I mean, it's not one villain, it's a conspiracy of, it's literally the system.
And then you've got
there.
Like Deathstroke, and you've got KG Beast, and you've got, I mean, even to a degree, Bane, just as long as you don't take
Nolan did Bane, you know, and he wasn't like necessarily injecting himself with the venom. You just believed he was a scary guy.
Yeah.
Total sociopath. He doesn't, well, I'm going to crash a plane. Like, he literally has guys, commandos coming from another plane in midair, which is insane, but they make you believe.
Yeah, so I think they're filled with a lot, but I think for me, I think next up would be Deathstroke for me. I mean, that's just
who is a mirror of Batman.
Yeah.
And that makes it interesting. Not like a mirror the way the Joker's a mirror, but literally a guy that doesn't believe in justice. He's somebody that's like, look, I'm rich and powerful, and I'm very talented, and I have fast twitch muscles or whatever, and I'm smarter than you.
All right, next up, we've got remember Bulldog writes in the game, writes, just watched Blade Runner 2049. I love that movie.
Me too.
And it was fantastic. I love the movie. It was better than Dune. I don't know if I'd say that, but it's close, which I thought was just fine. Thanks, and bring on the filthy. Yeah, I am not a big fan of Blade Runner, the original. And I'm alone amongst my peers in that. Like, everybody loves Blade Runner. And
I don't know, I have a hot take for you on that.
But
I do.
Do you? Okay, let me finish this thought
Yeah.
here. So I'm not a big fan of Blade Runner, but Blade Runner 2049 was great. I really enjoyed it a lot. Now, I think I still prefer Dune. Dune is just, I can't imagine that being done any better than the way Denis Villeneuve did it. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. What's your hot take on it there, Rob?
I love the vision of Blade Runner. I love the way it looks. I love the mood of it, the theme of it. I love Vangelis's music. I don't think it's a particularly good movie.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's an incredible vision, and I sit there and I'm mesmerized by the whole thing. But as a film, there's not a whole lot there. And I think, the profundity of when Rutger Hauer's Roy Batty says, at the end of his life, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe, that these 4 or 5 characters, these replicants, want more life. That's what we all want. So they're analogous to us as we get older, and we know that we have finite amounts of time on this planet. Love all that. It's great. We all want what the replicants want.
Candles that burn brightest burn out the fastest.
Yeah, I mean, twice as bright, burn half as long. All that's great. But the movie itself, languidly paced, the plotting is a little iffy. It's not a great movie, but I think it's a beautiful vision, if that makes any sense.
Which is part of the reason why I think a lot of people consider it a sci-fi classic.
Yep.
And love it so much. All right, thanks a lot for writing that in, Remmer. Next up, Remmer also writes, hopefully you do a Captain America Civil War movie club. Oh, that will definitely be on the list. Yes, no doubt, 100%. If not, I understand, but it would be amazing. Thanks. Yeah, 100% Captain America Civil War will absolutely be one of the movies that we cover on Movie Club. You can take that to the bank, Remmer. All right, next up, Benny S. writes, finally got to see Peacemaker in the UK. Nice. How did people see in the UK? Did they finally release it on
VPNs, maybe?
Maybe. Anyway, whatever way you got to see it. Finally got to see Peacemaker in the UK. Mate, the intro is simply awesome. It's the best intro to a show I've ever seen. And after 6 episodes and a movie, it dawned on me. John Cena and The Rock are in the DCEU. You just know we have to be getting some kind of DC superhero WrestleMania rematch. Here's the thing. Not really. I mean, because theoretically, John Cena and Dwayne The Rock Johnson are both in the Fast and the Furious universe too. But I don't see them matching them up. But my biggest issue about the whole thing about in the DC universe is the reality is Peacemaker versus Black Adam is a very short fight.
Yeah.
That's a one-punch fight and it's done.
Yeah, it is.
Or one strike of lightning or whatever.
Unless they had to do something together for whatever reason. I don't know what that reason would be.
Sure.
But I would love to see them, like a post-credit scene where maybe Peacemaker encroaches in on something Black Adam is doing. Peacemaker's like, maybe I could help you.
Hey, if you could get Jason Momoa to do a quick one-line cameo.
Dude.
If a Dwayne The Rock Johnson quick one-line cameo and a Peacemaker with John Cena, the two of them on screen would be glorious. I don't think you're going to see them fight each other.
No.
Because that just doesn't make any sense.
But they could share a frame together.
They could share a frame together, and that could be pretty
awesome.
awesome.
Some kind of a god?
All right. Thanks a lot for that, Benny. Next up, Michael Jones. Tips in like $20. Thank you, Michael, for supporting our channel on that level, man. And Michael writes, The Flash is getting a 9th season. Yep. Ezra Miller was announced as the movie Flash the day episode 2 of season 1 of the Flash TV show aired. The Flash TV show will complete 9 seasons before the Flash movie is released. Yeah, somebody wrote that exact same thing in on the John Campea Show a few days ago,
Dude.
and that does put it in perspective. That we're literally going to get 9 seasons of the Flash between when they announced the Flash movie and when a Flash movie actually gets delivered. It does put things a little bit in perspective, Michael. It absolutely does. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, dude. All right. Next up, Grubby Don't Play writes, hey, gang. With Spidey crossing 800 million in the US, do you think Marvel might consider giving the OG X-Men cast one last great MCU film where they walk off into the sunset and then we get an all-new cast? Love for them is strong, just like Toby and Andrew. I love the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for that, Grubby Don't Play. No.
I think no too.
It's not going to happen. The X-Men franchise ended on a down note. And really, the last great walk into the sunset, they did it. It was called Logan.
And it was a great walk into the sunset.
It was a top 3 to me. A top 3, maybe top 2 greatest comic book movie of all time. First comic book movie in history to be nominated for Best Screenplay at the Academy Awards, which I thought was great. But then they did Apocalypse, and then they did
Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix, and the reality is this.
And New Mutants.
And New Mutants, which was kind of a side thing.
Right.
The reality is this. The X-Men movies, while some of them are some of the best comic book movies ever, they were never massive hits at the box office like Spider-Man movies were, or like Avengers movies are, or whatever. So the idea that there is great love for them, there is great love for them in a certain demographic.
Yeah.
But it's, as much as I love those films, like X-Men 1, I still think X-Men 2 is a top 10 greatest comic book movie of all time. X-Men Days of Future Past, I think, is a top 10, maybe top 5 greatest comic book movie of all time. Logan, all that kind of stuff. But the reality is it was never on that level. And these performers are all older now, and I just don't see them doing it. I don't think there's any purpose to do it. Why delay starting your new X-Men for another 3 years because you want to get a greatest hits of the X-Men? Doesn't make sense to me, Rob. What do you think?
I'm right there with you. If they're going to do it, they got to bring a new cast of characters in. As much as I'd love to see Hugh Jackman come back, it doesn't make any sense. He had a great exit. I would dare say one of the great exits of any franchise character in history.
Now, that doesn't mean we can't get the odd shot of Professor Charles Xavier and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, or even something else. But like, yeah, a collective X-Men movie, and you bring back Famke Janssen, and you bring back Halle Berry, and you bring back... I just don't see that happening.
Plus, I mean, think about it. It's been 22 years since the first... In May, it'll be 22 years since the first X-Men movie.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah. It's time to move on. They've waited... The MCU has waited long enough to get the new X-Men going. No need to artificially delay it by another few years just for that. All right. Next up. But I do love them, dude. I really do. Ethan Holgate writes, one of two. Hey, John and Rob, Michael Bay's Ambulance was released near me on March 25th. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I saw it in IMAX, and my God, I loved it. Classic Michael Bay, hardcore, intense action thriller, pure nonstop thrill ride of intensity and things going wrong for the main characters. Great story, great performances, awesome practical stunts, and classic Bay-style camera work. So happy that he's back making regular action movies again. I like his Transformers movies, but I think he shines better in movies like this. I'd recommend it. Well, see, here's the problem.
I love hearing that, by the way.
I love hearing that, too. Like, I'm not really interested in this movie, but I love hearing that. I love hearing that it could be good.
You know I am.
But let's not pretend this is the first movie he's done since Transformers.
No.
He did a movie with, I think, the greatest movie star in the world, Ryan Reynolds, called Six Underground. That was, and listen, I am a Michael Bay appreciator. I like Michael Bay. I like a good number of his films. I am pro Michael Bay. And obviously, Ryan Reynolds is my favorite movie star in the world. Good Canadian kid. That movie was bad.
It was. Now let me ask you this. I didn't like it either. And I didn't like it from the there's that big car chase through whatever European city they're in. It was beautifully done, but I hated it all. I just hated everything about it. There was nothing about that movie that grabbed me that I liked. Whereas Armageddon, you know, I get Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler having a picnic with the sun. I buy that. Like, yeah. I was enjoying the character. I did not like Six Underground at all.
I didn't like any of the characters. I never bought into the narrative of what brought them together or what made them tick.
Nope, ever.
A lot of the action was very good, but that's Michael Bay. But yeah, so, hey, if Ambulance can be good, though, that's all. I don't have a lot of excitement for it, but I'm definitely going to see it. And here's hoping it's as good as, and I'm always hoping, Ethan, that I like it as much as you did. So thanks for giving us that update, dude. All right, next up. Film Boss writes, hey-yo, John, you keep mentioning that a Joaquin Phoenix Battinson crossover would have a 65-year-old Joker, despite its aesthetic. The Batman is set in 2021. There's a date on security footage in the film, making Joaquin's Joker 85 years old, different universe. Well, I mean, it depends on what year. Was there a year? Oh, the only reason I say 65 is because Joaquin meets a young Bruce Wayne. When Joaquin is at his earliest, probably early 40s.
Yeah.
In that movie. So you figure 20 years for that Bruce to grow up to the point that he can be Batman. You're talking about an early to mid 60s, maybe late 60s Joker. Now, yes, they are different universes, absolutely. But I usually use that as my response to people who write to me and say, well, you could do it, though. Like, maybe they always intended them to be two separate things, but you could, because Joker meets young Bruce Wayne. And yeah, but then this Batson is fighting a guy approaching his 70s.
But, yeah.
And I that's why I just don't think it works that way. But you're right. If you want to look at it as separate universes, then there's that. But I'm saying even within the idea that they could be in the same universe, the ages just don't line up and it doesn't work. No. And now we definitively have a new Joker. Hey guys, we want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this video, Athletic Greens. Now, I started taking Athletic Greens because I don't eat enough vegetables, and I was looking for a way to make up for that deficit in my diet of those vitamins and minerals that I really need in my system, and thank goodness I found Athletic Greens, and I literally take it every morning. You see, with one scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole foods, source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, all the things. And my wife got onto it, and now she absolutely loves it. You know, tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high-quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb, like Athletic Greens. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with a convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Campea. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Campea to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And thank you to the good folks at Athletic Greens for sponsoring this episode of Mailbag. Okay, let's get back to it here, guys. We're gonna get things picked up here with Dan Ketchum. And Dan Ketchum writes, Will Smith just told young people that insults should be answered with violence. He should be stripped of that Oscar. Yeah, and obviously that was the big thing. That was the big topic of conversation on the John Campea Show today. And look, there's no defending it, what Will Smith did. And what we've been seeing online and what I have personally been contacted by a number of friends of mine who are comedians who are basically saying, yeah, now I'm scared to death because Will Smith just told people that it's okay if you're offended, bothered, or insulted by a joke a comedian makes, it's okay to go on stage and physically attack them or wait for them outside and physically attack them. That's what Will Smith just told the world. And while I appreciate that the Academy put out the statement that the Academy does not condone any forms of violence, well, that's a lie.
Right.
Because after Will Smith got on stage and physically attacked somebody else, they just let him stay. Now, granted, it would have been a scene to send in security and say, I'm sorry, we're throwing you out. Like you literally, first of all, just walking up on stage when you're not supposed to walk up on stage, that should be enough to show you the door. You went up on stage and attacked our presenter. You can't stay. We'll announce the winner of Best Actor and we'll have the award mailed to you. But by letting him stay, they said, yeah, we are okay with violence. We, as a matter of fact, we do tolerate it. Because that's exactly what they did. They tolerated it. They said, oh, okay, well, he just went up on stage and physically assaulted the presenter.
And so did the rest. I mean, he was at the Vanity Fair party later that night dancing to his own music.
Yeah, I mean, but what happens outside of the Oscars is one thing. But the Oscars themselves, and again, the pathetic excuse-making people are making, well, he insulted his wife. Here's the thing, hypocrites. Almost every joke that a comedian says almost anywhere is either offensive or insulting to somebody somewhere. But you're okay with that because it's not a rich, famous celebrity that you like. And I get it, but here's the thing. The joke itself was fairly tame. It's not like Chris Rock on stage said, wow, hey, Will Smith's here. Huh, your clown-looking wife there with that shaved head looking like stupid. made a G.I. Jane Jake. He made a movie reference joke at a movie event. But even if you think it was the most offensive thing in the world that he said, fine, you deal with that later. You let the public discuss it and say, yeah, what Chris Rock said was over the line. You have Will Smith doing one of his post-Oscar interviews saying, listen, I just want to say right now that what Chris Rock said about that wife, I get comedy, but to me, he was over the line. And then you let everybody else deal with that. For him to take it on himself to walk up on stage, Will Smith just said that comedians can't tell jokes that might even remotely offend somebody.
Right.
Because if they do, it's free game. It's open season. You can walk up on a stage and you can strike and hit and assault.
And comedians are already embattled as to what they can say because of the way that the culture has been going for the last couple of years. More than that, I mean, comedians can't even go on college campuses anymore without people feeling offended at what they're saying. And now Will Smith, like you just pointed out, physically assaulted a comic
who was doing his job.
Absolutely.
On a stage, telling jokes. And we always say, man, we wish comedians would be more edgy. Okay, so he told one was kind of edgy. And then we can debate later whether it was a thing that was over the line. But Dan is right when he says he just told young people that if you feel insulted, it's appropriate. An appropriate response is violence. And that just makes you weak, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that Dan does say that I'm going to disagree with, and we talked about this on the John Campea Show this morning, is that he should be stripped of that Oscar. I've been seeing a lot of people talking about that online. And I disagree. John, how can you disagree? You just said what Will Smith did was unacceptable. It is. It's completely. But it's a completely separate issue from whether or not he was the best male lead actor of the year.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the work he did on King Richard.
No.
Nothing at all.
It was completely separate from that. It was completely void of that. He was voted on by the Academy as being the best male lead performance of the year. And if that is the case, had nothing to do with whether he's a nice guy, has nothing to do whether he acted like a jerk or an asshole at the Academy Awards. He was voted Best Actor of the Year. You give him the Academy Award. And because Chris Carr made a great point this morning, Rob. She said, if you're going to start taking away Oscars from people because they act inappropriately later, you're going to be taking back a lot of Oscars.
Well,
and that's true.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right about that. And think about all of the creative endeavors throughout history. Creative people are not always the paragons of virtue we might want them to be. A lot of creative people, the reason they're so
professional
creative,
athletes, any kind of celebrities.
I mean, everybody. And now we want these people to be virtuous 100% of the time. Now, I have a hard time that separating the art from the artist is a philosophical debate I've been thinking about my entire life. But I still think that the work is the work. You know, whatever fuels an actor or a painter or a novelist to give us the kind of works that they're giving us, you know, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to reconcile them as people and the work. But in my mind, the work, if you have a slip up in your personal life or whatever, that still doesn't diminish, or does it? Maybe I'm wrong, but does it diminish the work he put in on King Richard? I think not.
Here's the thing. When I was a kid, one of the big, because I've been into sports since I was a kid, but ever since I was a kid, one of the big debates going around in sports at the time was, should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? For those of you who don't know anything about it, Pete Rose, one of the all-time great baseball players, but he was caught betting on baseball. He never bet against himself. He always bet that his team would win.
Right.
So like he was never throwing games or anything like that. But, you know, it's against the rules in baseball for you to bet on games. But they banned him from the Hall of Fame. And I have always been a pro Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame guy. It's like he either was one of the greatest baseball players of all time or he wasn't. And whether or not he broke a couple of rules that had nothing to do with how he performed in the game, then I say he should be in it. So yeah, I'm completely against the way Will Smith conducted himself. I don't believe we should paint the entirety of his character based on his one awful moment. I think if, I said this morning, Rob, I said if the world saw all of our worst moments, everybody in the world would be considered the biggest asshole ever. But we shouldn't judge each other based on our worst moment. And I think we just saw Will Smith's worst moment. And while I don't condone it, and I think he needs to be held accountable, I don't think we should be painting his entire character by that one moment. Nor do I think they should take away his Oscar.
I agree with you.
All right. Thanks for writing that in, Dan. Next up. Funny You Ask tips in $20 to support the channel. Thank you, Funny You Ask, for supporting us on that level, dude. Hey, crew. I like the Batman, but Act 3 was messy. I would much rather see the Riddler put up more of a fight or make Batman make a difficult decision, arrest him or save the city. Similar to The Dark Knight, fighting faceless goons is boring. Thoughts? I'm going to disagree with you on that, Funny You Should Ask, because what you just described is a very stereotypical superhero ending. Like that's done every superhero movie. Yeah. It's like they either got to fight the bad guy or they're given this impossible dilemma. The reality is, if you're going to try to make Joker, or Riddler, I should say, we were just talking about how they made him grounded, feel real, like a real one of those guys. That guy, making him feel real, cannot fight Batman. That guy can't put up a fight against Batman.
Yeah.
So you have to have something else that he has to encounter. And if you make that encounter, whether it's against goons that we don't know or whatever, if you make the encounter thrilling and exciting, then it works. And I think for a lot of people it worked. Now, yes, they could have just inserted your stereotypical superhero ending thing. They could have done that. But I think it would have lost something if all of a sudden, Rob, we found out Riddler, well, after they closed down the orphanage in Gotham, they sent me to the deepest parts of China where I studied under the greatest kung fu masters in history. And all of a sudden, Paul Dano started. Then I would have gone, okay, well, this is silly. This is ridiculous. I actually thought it played out the way it should play out myself. I don't know. Do you think he's got a good point?
No, I think what people forget is that Batman himself posits at the beginning of the movie, he's not talking about people. He's talking about the city of Gotham. Crime is, I've been here for 2 years. Every night, have I made a difference? Crime has gone up. All the statistics that I'm fighting against have gone up. Do I make a difference? Is anything that I'm doing changing how Gotham is? So at the end of the movie, it's no longer just about one man. It's about the city of Gotham. And one man has literally weaponized Gotham against Batman. If crime wasn't bad enough, he's brought out his 500 followers, his minions with guns and willing to assassinate and kill innocents, blow up the seawall. And Batman realizes that Gotham needs him. And it's the city that needs him. We all need him. So I think the fact that the third act, the story gets much bigger and less personal, it makes sense because you have to bring the story around to Gotham. And the question has to be answered. Does Gotham need me? Yeah. When he leads those people to the promised land through the water. Yeah. That's the citizens of Gotham. We don't know who those people are. We haven't met them aside from the newly minted mayor. We don't know who those people are. But those people need Batman. And if they don't have him, they're lost.
I agree. All right. Next up, we got Scott Brown, who writes, 1 of 2. Well, the Oscars this year was certainly better than last, I agree. It showed it was desperately missing a host, but 3 was too much, and some of the bits felt extremely flat, like Hall's She's Single routine. I didn't see that because I didn't watch the first half of the show. At least the speeches were less preachy this year. Like the sped up pace. I like the celebration of anniversary of movies. The live choir during the memorial was distracting. I kind of liked it, actually. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But I hope next year we'll have a better pace and one host and shorter musical acts if they could get a tight 2.5 hour show. Dude, Scott, at this point, I will take a 3-hour show. I mean, that was 3 hours and 45 minutes. It was too long. Again, get rid of the individual performances of the song. I get it. But we have Billie Eilish this year. You got to have Billie Eilish. And you don't talk about Bruno's like the most popular song in the world. I get it. But this is the Academy Awards, man. I mean, break it down into one montage of the 5 songs where each singer performs like 20 seconds of their song that flows into the next singer, moves on stage, does their 20 seconds of the song. Do that, tighten it up. I personally like the In Memoriam, and I think the reason I liked it is because, and I know this sounds morbid to say the In Memoriam is usually one of my favorite moments of the Oscars, that moment we get to reflect and think back and be grateful for the great careers of the people who've passed. I liked it this year, I think, because it was a little bit different. Like, every year, it's this very somber,
yeah.
This one felt more celebratory.
I'm with you 100%,
like
man.
What do you think?
I'm with you 100%. You know, all of our lives, spoiler alert, are going to come to an end at some point. And I would much rather in my wake people have martinis in their hands and have a good time and clink glasses and talk about what they liked or hated about me. But I thought the in memoriam section, I thought it was rather uplifting, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, again, I could see why it'd be a bit jarring because it was different.
Yeah.
It was different than we normally do, but I actually thought it was quite good. There was somebody missing from it. Oh, I remember. Every year when there's an in memoriam, they always say, so-and-so is missing. The one I saw people mention this year that was missing was Bob Saget.
Yeah.
And I thought about that. And I'm actually okay that Bob Saget wasn't in there because the reality is Bob Saget's a television personality. And I absolutely think the Emmys do an in memoriam that he should absolutely be included in that.
Of course.
But I was okay with his absence from this simply because, I mean, I know he was in Dirty Deeds and probably a small role here and there, but really he's a television personality, so I was okay with it. Was there anybody else that you noticed it?
Not really. I mean, I'm sure I didn't really think about it too much, but I did like what they did with Jamie Lee Curtis honoring Betty White, and I really liked what that Bill Murray came out to talk about Ivan Reitman. I like that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why Betty White and Ivan Reitman were the ones that were singled out, but I liked it, you know.
All right. Next up, we've got Take It Outside writes, "Hey, John, watch the Oscars, and instead of talking about winners, it's all about Will Smith. If offended by a joke, there are better ways to handle it than smacking them in the face. If you or I did it at work, would work. Do we would," I think you meant to say, God, guys, let me try this again. "If you or I did it at work, we would be sacked and prosecuted. Don't think his award should be taken away, and he can't be sacked. I think he should be banned/fined. Not sure what, but this looks like another case. One law for celebrities and rich people, and another law for us. No one should have stood up for him." Next up, "I'm a pacifist. Kids are learning to not fight and walk away. To be honest, we are not talking about Rock's what he thought was offensive joke, but his violent/macho act. We are not debating offensive jokes about people with disabilities now. Thanks." And again, like, yeah, I mean, some people try to hijack the conversation, say, make it about whether or not Chris Rock's joke was appropriate. It doesn't matter if his joke was appropriate or not. Like, so there's no point in having the discussion. Because if we land on his joke was appropriate, it was within the bounds. There have been much, much more personally offensive jokes making fun of people's health or people's age or people's weight or people's success or failure or people's ruined careers or people whatever. You know, Rob, I was talking to you. Like, look at how many jokes at award shows were made about Cats, right? And you would think, well, Cats is just a movie. Hold that thought. Cats represented the ending of some people's careers. Cats represented some people losing a fortune. To some people, Cats represented a very negative turn in their life. For some people, it ruined them. Does that mean we shouldn't laugh and make jokes about it and whatever? That is what we as human beings do. We joke about stuff and we ask our comedians to make us laugh at ourselves sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, whether it's Cats or something else or joke, these jokes have always been told and there have always been worse. But even if you think Chris's was even worse than any of the other jokes you've ever heard, even if that's the case, it does not justify, well, I was offended by what he said. It's cool for me to walk on stage. And one of the things that really bothers me about the situation that he's right is that if that was almost anybody else, I think Leo DiCaprio could have gotten away with it. I think Denzel could have gotten away with it. Will Smith obviously got away with it. But after that, the list gets very, very short. I don't know that anybody else gets away with that because you're right. We would have immediately been escorted by security out of the premises and probably charged.
Yeah.
And Will Smith, none of that. He was allowed to sit there with the rest of the ceremony, go up, accept his award, give some bullshit speech about love and everything like that when you just literally went on stage and committed an act of violence. And he got away. Again, I'm not saying we should all hate Will Smith. I don't believe we should judge somebody by their worst moment. I'm just saying there's no justifying it. There isn't.
No, and what if the slap had gotten a little out of hand, and what if it poked out an eye, or what if it knocked him on the ground and he was unconscious, or what if something like that happened? It didn't, thank God.
I mean, it could have been worse.
Could have been worse.
And again, I said it before, I will say it again. If that had been John Cena or Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on stage and made the same joke, I guarantee you Will Smith's not walking up.
Nope.
Big man walked up on stage for a 5'5", $125 soaking wet guy and smack him, big tough guy. I guarantee you he wouldn't have done that if Dwayne Johnson's on the stage telling that joke. No way he does that. Anyway, not that that makes it any better.
No, of course not.
Yeah. All right. Next up, Paul Dean writes, "Hey, John and crew. I've been a big fan of Will Smith since the Fresh Prince days. I have too. While I get Chris's joke may have been too much, and you got to defend your family, Will was wrong to slap him in my view, especially live on TV. He should have acted differently." And again, that's the other thing that I really took issue with is Will Smith's notion that I defend my family. I said this on the John Campea Show earlier today. I'll say it again. I must have missed the part where Chris Rock was lunging at Jada. I must have missed the part where Chris Rock was throwing spears or rocks or whatever at Jada. I must have missed that part because as far as I could tell, she was not under any threat. And it was one joke and then they moved on. A joke that, by the way, Rob, we watched the video footage of it later. Now, when Chris Rock told the joke, Will Smith laughed at it. He laughed along with it until he realized Jada was upset by it. And listen, and I'm not saying Will Smith shouldn't have a right to feel upset. I'm not saying he doesn't have a right to be upset. If you think a joke is offensive or over a line, you have a right to feel upset, and you have a right to say something about it afterwards. You do not have a right to walk up on stage at the Oscars and hit somebody.
I also don't think Chris Rock was thinking about making fun of a woman with alopecia, an autoimmune disease. I think he looked at her, saw her shaved head, and the first thing that popped into his mind was G.I. Jane. And Demi Moore was still hot with her shaved head.
Yes, she was.
And he made, I think,
and so is Jada, by the way.
Jada's hot AF.
Yes.
And you look at her, and he probably looked at her and came up with that joke off the top. You know, it's not like G.I. Jane is blowing up the video rental charts right now, so people don't necessarily even. But that's what he thought, and he made a joke. What are you going to do? Whether you thought it was, but I actually kind of thought it was kind of funny because I knew what he meant. I'm like, oh yeah, call back to G.I. Jane. When was the last time you heard that as a punchline, John?
It's been a while. I've not heard G.I. Jane brought up in the topic conversation for a while. All right. Next up, we got an anonymous viewer who writes, "I don't think Will Smith should have his Oscar taken away. Neither do I. But he should never be invited back, and I will personally never watch anything he makes ever again. You can't reward bad behavior." Okay, so I'm seeing that sentiment, anonymous, and I respect it. I do. But the whole idea of a life sentence seems to me to be disproportionate. Do I think he should not be invited back next year? Yes. Do I think maybe there should be a 3-year ban for the Academy on Will Smith being eligible for any awards or being invited to the thing? Sure. I even think that might be appropriate for what he did. Do I think it necessitates a lifetime ban? Look, the reality is what he did was awful. What he did was dumb. What he did was narcissistic and selfish and weak and cowardly. But a lifetime ban? I don't know that I would go there. 2-3 year suspension. I don't think you take away his Academy Award. And I get it. What he did really turned you off. And so for you, you never want to watch anything he makes again. And I respect that. I do. But again, I want to make an appeal that for you, Anonymous, I bet you if I saw you at your worst moment, whatever your worst moment was, when you acted like the biggest jerk or you did something really inappropriate, whatever, I bet if I saw your worst thing, I would say that guy should never be allowed to do anything ever again. And I bet you if you saw me at my absolute worst, you would say, I'm never watching John Campea again. I bet you if you saw Rob at his absolute worst, you said, never watch him again. I bet you if I saw your mother, the worst thing your mom ever did, we'd all say, your mother should never be allowed to. That's the thing. I think we as people have to be very hesitant to judge the entire nature of who we are as people based on our worst moment.
Yeah.
And I think am I disappointed and kind of disgusted by what Will Smith did? Absolutely. Do I think he should be held accountable to some degree? Absolutely, I do. Do I believe that this changes the way we should all look at Will Smith forever? No, I don't.
No, that's I think the problem with cancel culture, based on a bad moment or a bad outburst or something. You know, people can get railroaded out of their chosen profession and left with not a life. And what does that say about us? Are we looking to throw stones and give vengeance out to people for the rest of their lives?
Yeah.
Is that good for us?
There's a happy medium. There is something in between.
Yeah.
Let's just excuse his behavior, or let's ban him from everything forever. I think there is holding him accountable for what he did, but only to the proportionate degree. And I think there is a middle ground there. But anyway, that's just kind of my take on it. But hey, Anonymous, listen, I'm not putting down your viewpoint on that. For you don't feel like you can watch him anymore. That's fine. I would just caution maybe taking a look at that again and realizing that that was his worst moment. And I don't think we should judge each other based on our single worst moment. All right. Christian Gomez writes, my number one most anticipated movie this year is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, because I am a huge Nick Cage fan. I'm also excited to see Pedro Pascal in it as well. John, are you and the crew excited for this film as well? I am interested in the film, Rob, because whenever I see a trailer and a clip from it, I always have the same thought. This can go either way.
I feel the same way.
This could either be an unbelievably everything everywhere all at once level of brilliance, or it could be a complete dumpster fire. So I will say I am very interested in the film. I'm not going to say I'm excited for it. What about you?
I'm kind of excited. I mean, I'm pretty excited, and it's gotten a lot of great notices. I mean, does it still have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes? And I don't know. But it looks, I like the self-reflexive nature of it. I hope the script is great, because Nicolas Cage looks like he's fully committed.
Yeah, he totally does. All right, next up. We got JC who writes, did the slap even connect though? It did. Yeah, we can confirm. We've watched it. It did connect. Thanks for the great show as ever, all the way over in Hong Kong. Well, thank you, JC, for watching us all the way over in Hong Kong. We appreciate that, man. We hope you had a good time watching the Oscars yourself, dude. All right, next up. Andy S. writes, have you watched The Dropout on Hulu? I think lately Amanda Seyfried has been killing it with her roles, a long way from Mean Girls. Dude, I think I've only ever seen her in one movie I didn't like her in. And I remember I interviewed her for it, and it was the most awkward interview because I refused to ever lie in an interview, and I went to go see the movie the night before, and then I refused to say, like, man, this movie was so great, because I would not say it because the movie was not great. And I can't even remember the name of it now, where she was like the victim of something, and I can't remember the name of it now. I'll have to look it up. You know what? Give me a second. I'm going to look it up right now. Give me 1 second. Okay, I looked it up because I had to. It was driving me crazy what the movie was. The movie was called Gone. And it was not good, even though it had some good people in it, including Dexter's sister, Jennifer Carpenter, was in there. Sebastian Stan was in it before he was really famous. Joel David Moore is in it. So it had some pretty good people in it. Wes Bentley was in it, who is on Yellowstone now. So it had some really good people in it. But yeah, unfortunately, not a good movie. Anyway, Rob, have you been watching this?
I saw it.
Oh.
I watched The Dropout. I watched the whole thing.
Oh, you did?
I did.
And what are your thoughts?
And she is incredible as Elizabeth Holmes. But John, I have to tell you, the first season ends with Laurie Metcalf, an actress I really like, you know, from Roseanne and from Internal Affairs, which is a Mike Figgis movie with Andy Garcia. And it kind of ends on a cliffhanger. I'm like, wait, what? I mean, I was ready to hit the next episode, and it just ended. And I thought it ended like in the middle of the story when it was, you know, before her downfall.
You know, I really don't like that in TV shows. I really prefer the structure of Supernatural. And we've talked about this before. Because Supernatural, every season had its own story.
Right.
And every season would bring that story to a satisfying conclusion at the end of their season, while also then opening up the door for what the story is going to be in the next season. Like, it's always like in the first 3 quarters of the final episode, they bring it to resolution. Then there's about 5 or 10 more minutes of the show left that kind of introduces where we're going next. And I hate getting to the end of a season of TV only to find that we just stop right in the middle of whatever the storyline there is, and we got to wait 6 months for something.
Now that I'm thinking about it, John, I only watched, I want to say 5 or 6 episodes.
Oh, so maybe you didn't even finish it.
Maybe they dropped another episode. Maybe they're gonna.
Maybe the reason it felt
it's a limited series because I felt like this is a weird way. Although if it was a season ender when she says, Laurie Metcalf's like she's a fraud. You know, and that's where it ended. And maybe because I've been watching it as it went along. At this point, I don't remember.
You should double check that. That's why it feels like it didn't end.
You know,
right.
I was watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and it ends with this great episode. I'm like, wait, is that the end of the season, or is there one more? And then I found out it's the finale. I'm like, it was a great. The scene was great, but I'm like, well, damn it, man. It's over.
We'll find out. All right, next up, we got Lou from Houston who writes. The best thing about the slap is going to be the Dave Chappelle's next special. Oh, we need another Justice for Juicy.
Wow, I could see that. He's going to call his next special The Slap.
Oh my God, that would be so good.
Yeah.
I would totally be down for that.
He'll probably record it tomorrow.
He's probably recording it right now as we speak. All right, next up. It's me, Morbius, writes. Jared Leto's new film is nigh. I can't wait to hear his behind-the-scenes shenanigans, like if he sent anyone a live bat. With the writers of Gods of Egypt and the director spoiling the credit scenes and Matt Smith not knowing who he's playing, I'm worried. By the way, Matt Smith did not literally not know who he's playing.
Right.
Just be very, very clear about that. And the writer, while he is a writer of the Gods of Egypt, he has done some other stuff too.
Yeah.
Right?
By the way, Gods of Egypt rules.
I know. You really do like that movie, don't you?
I saw it at the Chinese, dude.
Did you?
In 3D.
Oh, my God. You're the only person I know personally who liked that movie. I'm sure there are others who did. Of course you own it. Of course you. I have no doubt that you own it. Look, again, I am still excited to watch the movie. I am. I'm looking forward to seeing it. But hearing what I've been hearing...
Gods of Egypt?
Yeah, no. But hearing what I've been hearing, my expectation levels have been coming down. It's me, Morbius. But anyway, we'll see. Hopefully it's not that bad. Hopefully. All right, next up.
I can loan you Gods of Egypt.
Not interested. I've seen Gods of Egypt. Once was enough. All right, Scott Brown writes. The one thing from the Oscars that was complete failure was the fan-voted segments. Absolutely. Both segments had movies that puzzled me, like Dreamgirls and Cheer Moments, and I haven't heard anyone talk about that movie in like 15 years, and The Army of the Dead is a fan-favorite movie. That was it. Yeah, look, honestly,
dude,
I said this on the show earlier today. I'm not giving it any air. I'm not going to even discuss it. I'm not going to give obviously it was one of the dumbest things the Academy has ever done. They will realize it was an absolute abject failure.
And they got gamed.
And that's why they won't do it again, nor should they. It was a stupid idea, and we've already talked enough about it. So yes, Scott, I completely agree with you, my friend. All right. Next up, Lou from Houston writes in, since like a $20 tip to support the channel. Thank you, Lou, for supporting us on that level. I'm pissed off, guys. I have Peacock Premium Plus to watch a few film shows and old WWE Raw shows. But yesterday I tried to watch some films and it had ads. I'm like, what the hell? I pay to have no ads. This happened with 4 out of the 5 movies I wanted to watch. Huh. Well, okay. I have not had that experience myself. I am also I have the highest level of Peacock that I got, which is a streaming service that I really like quite a bit. I mean, if for no other reason, Parks and Rec and The Office and The Blacklist and, you know, and by the way, Wolf Like Me is really fun. They got a bunch of good things on it. I have never had that. Now, I will say this, though. I also have the top Hulu plan, right? And every once in a while, there will be a show that I watch on Hulu that says, it starts off with this line. You hear a narrator's voice going, due to streaming rights, the following episode will be presented with an ad at such and point to such and point during the show, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so there may be some licenses with content that literally handcuff the streamer, that they are required by law because of agreements and leases to actually play an ad. I don't want to say that definitively, Rob, because I don't know the situation, but that's my
it sounds something along those lines. Sounds pretty plausible.
Yeah, so that may be a part of it that literally they may not have a choice in. What I would do too is I would log out. If I were you, and I don't know if this will fix anything. If I were you, I would log out of Peacock and then log back into it again. Because hey, listen, it's technology, right? We get funny things with technology. It happens. So maybe just right now, it kind of thinks you're at the next level down. I mean, I don't know, like I said, give that a shot. And if that still doesn't work, I would give their customer support a call and just say, hey, is this supposed to be happening? Because they might say to you, no, at your level, you're not supposed to get ads there. So I would look into it and see what's going on. Okay, next up, we've got Chloe Fanning who writes, did you see the Oscars as a kind gesture, or do you see the Oscars as a kind gesture, reaching out to Chris Rock, having him as the Oscar host next year, and do see a studio like Netflix capitalizing on this with having a comedy special with Chris Rock? Well, Chris Rock has many comedy specials. Well, I remember Chris Rock already was the host of the Oscars.
Right.
Once, and a pretty good host of the Oscars, as a matter of fact. But no, I don't see... The Oscars don't need to make this up to Chris Rock. I mean, by any stretch of the imagination. No. Hey, listen, I am all for Chris Rock hosting the Oscars again next year. I thought he did a decent job the last time he hosted it. I'd be kind of all for it. But probably only if you ban Will Smith from being there at the same time. So, but no, I don't see the Oscars believing that they have to do anything like that, Chloe. All right. But more comedy specials? Absolutely. All right. Dangerous D writes, hi, John and Rob. Well, I'll say it. Will Smith should be banned from going to the Oscars for at least 2 years for assaulting Chris Rock. There's no excuse. Chris was just doing his job, filling time. And if Will has issues about jokes about his wife, then he shouldn't be there. Make up an excuse. It was unprofessional. Whether Chris Rock knew about Jada's condition or not is besides the point. Will should have been the bigger man and talked to Chris after the show. Instead, he put himself over at Chris's expense. He should apologize to Chris Rock. He could have filed charges to the police for assault, which everybody was telling him to do, but he said no. And to those celebrities who hugged Will and supported him for that action, shame on you. Well, I mean, look, I fundamentally agree with everything Dangerous D is saying. I mean, I do believe he should be banned from the Oscars, not just banned from being there in person. He should be banned from being eligible. I don't care if his next performance is his Citizen Kane. He should be banned from eligibility for the next couple of years. But I don't believe like for the next 10 years or next 15 years. I think 1 or 2 years, maybe 3 at the most, would be adequate. And yeah, I mean, Chris Rock had every right to press charges. He had every right to press charges. He was doing his job on a stage, telling jokes that weren't even in the top 30% of the most edgy jokes he's ever told. And Will Smith got on stage and decided, actually, you know what? I'm going to do this right now. I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do this right now. So as we were recording this, my buddy Soul texts me this. It is remember NBC had that The More You Know segments for kids, right? You're going to have a hard time seeing this, but he sent me this video of The Fresh Prince from 1992.
Ooh.
30 years ago, doing a The More You Know segment. So let's just hear this quickly here. Let me see if I can get this playing. I'm not sure I can. Let me try it again. Okay, here we go.
There you go. Here's the situation. Say you out with your boyfriend.
Yeah, Fresh Prince, I get it.
School, you at a club or something, getting busy. All right, you just having fun. Somebody steps up to you and they tell you they want to rumble. All right, now just stop for a second. Before you lose your head, get all crazy and toss your hands up, just think. The person that uses their head can always defeat the person that's just trying to use their hands. Now remember that, because the more you know.
Good, wise words.
30 years ago.
30 years ago, Will Smith was a wiser man.
Big Willie style.
He was a wiser man than he is today. But thank you to my buddy for sending that in to me. All right. Oh, and that'll do it for this installment of Mailbag. That was the final question of the day.
Wow, no, a great way to end there,
That
John.
was a great way
That's
to end
showmanship.
it. Will Smith, it takes us out on the final thing. Special thanks to Soul for sending that in to me. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here and making Mailbag a part of your day. Once again, remember, if you'd like to get a question in on Mailbag for our next installment, we usually do them 3 times a week. Just go ahead and use the tip link that's down in the description of the video or enter it in manually at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be seeing your comment or question read on Mailbag if we deem your question that you submit appropriate to be used on our show. And of course, you're supporting our channel at the same time. So big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number 1, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the channel, Thank you guys so much for your support. Want to thank Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at RM Burnett, find me on Twitter at Burnett RM, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work.
And you guys, of course, can follow me on Instagram or Twitter, simply at John Campea. All right, guys, that'll do it for us for now. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.